Well, morning everyone. It's a real privilege to join you, and congratulations on organising such an excellent event. I'm sorry it's a typical flying visit. I'm going to start by attempting to curry favour and sympathy. I think most of you know there are two things I think you should feel sympathetic with me about. Firstly, as most of you know, I'm the person whose job it is with you to save £20 billion and make quality better. But I've got something much more difficult than that, which is I'm also Muir Gray's line manager. Yes. 20 billion pales into insignificance. But let me say something about why innovation really matters. And of course, in a way, in all businesses, and in our business, it's about saving lives and improving health. Of course, innovation matters. The history of medicine and health has been one of innovation, although it's a bit of a strange history, as I'll say in a moment. But it's never been more important than it is now. We are the stewards of a universal, free at the point of delivery public health system for this country. It's an incredibly precious and important resource for the country, and we're in this paradoxical position as the country goes through very difficult times of having been treated well by comparison to many other things in terms of money, but being treated well means effectively our budget staying flat for a number of years, and that's an unprecedentedly difficult problem. Just the inherent demand of healthcare going up, and an ageing population, new techniques, means that to sort of stand still in healthcare you need to do more or to change. And if we don't find ways of innovating, we will be into a pile it high, sell it cheap healthcare system that I don't want and you don't want, and the worst examples of were on the radio again yesterday actually in terms of some care for the elderly. So innovation is life or death, actually, for the next few years. And I've got a specific view. I mean, of course, you all understand the sort of the innovation life cycle. And I'm not really talking about invention. Invention is wonderful. We're very good at it. Very good at it in the UK. We're very good at it in healthcare. We're very good at it in the NHS. But our innovation problem doesn't appear to be innovation. Our innovation problem it doesn't appear to be invention. Our innovation problem appears to be spread, dissemination. And it's that we have to crack, and I know it's that you're thinking about over these 2 days. And it's slightly, again, it's perverse or paradoxical about why in an industry with so much intrinsic dedication to care, spread is difficult. I live in York. I've driven across from York this morning. York is a tourist town. It's also still just about a chocolate town. It was built on chocolate with Rowntrees and Terry's. And Rowntrees, under the guise of Nestle, is still there. And I live next door to the man who is in charge of quality improvement on the Kit Kat line. It's a great guy. He is, by the way, the man who removed the silver paper from the Kit Kat bar, which is it's really. I've said to him, don't ever tell people. I don't tell people I'm responsible for 20 billion in the NHS. Don't tell people you're responsible for the silver paper. By the way, it was a fantastic innovation. It saved them several £100 million and makes Kit Kats safer and fresher and all that kind of stuff. People don't like change. You can't do that anymore, can you? It's a funny thing. Okay, we'll leave Kit Kats now for a moment. But he says to me a very interesting thing, which he says, because I've got this deep interest in improvement and spread of innovation. And he says, gosh, it must be really easy for you. He says, I've got to persuade factory workers to care about improving Kit Kats. You've got doctors, nurses, therapists. It must be really easy to spread innovation in healthcare. And it's a very challenging question for us, isn't it, about why it is intrinsically difficult, because of course the evidence tells us that the spread of innovation in healthcare, this is not just an NHS problem, this appears to be true generically in most healthcare systems, is slow and difficult. And I think I know why it is. I think I know what the problem is. The problem is us. And the great news about that is we can change us. There are some good reasons about innovation in healthcare being difficult, or the spread of innovation. And it's not a bad thing that medicine is a conservative profession. You don't want people madly experimenting every 5 minutes. You know, there are reasons why we have systems to ensure that what we do is safe and effective. But if that's all we were doing, we wouldn't have the problem. I mean, the fact is that things that we know are safe and effective and drive quality and also improve efficiency are equally slow to spread. People talk about evidence, in my view, and I get in terrible trouble with colleagues here. Evidence and the debate about evidence is used as much as a block to the spread of good innovation as it's used to enhance it. If it doesn't energise, it often is used as a block. Talking to my good colleague Sir Bruce Keogh, the National Medical Director for the NHS, about his work on venous thromboembolism, and he tells the story about going to the launch of the work and meeting the son of the professor who 40 years ago established the set of procedures that would massively reduce venous thromboembolism. Fairly simple set of things. Not all surgeons like them because patients can bleed more, but nevertheless the net benefit is huge. We think at the scale of 25,000 lives saved. 25,000 lives saved a year. And in the 30-something years since the evidence was first published, and when we decided to have this national launch, conformance, as far as we can understand it with those things, improved by 5%. That's the weird cultural place we are in. So we have to find ways of becoming, not losing the inherent safety and conservatism of not doing crazy things, but when we have a good idea about what to do, making it catch fire. Just to say something political, which is very dangerous, or people could interpret as political. Lots of debate at the moment around the health bill and all that stuff. That's the other part of my job, being involved in the middle of all that. And lots of debate about we shouldn't have more market-based systems, we should kind of stick with a cooperative system. Around the world, the reason that politicians turn to the idea of markets in healthcare is not because they value markets, but because they think that markets drive people to innovate. That's why people turn there. If in reality we were producing an unstoppable wave of spread of great things from our collaborative healthcare system, there'd be no need for people to do these other things. And yet, for all our talk about the value of collaboration, in my view, we're on weak ground when we talk about it as a basis for spreading great practice. I was a hospital chief executive in York, very proud to do it. York was a good hospital in many, many ways, but the reality was that I could do my job, get good ratings, earn money for the hospital, and not break sweat on innovation on any day of the week. There was no pressure particularly. I mean, we did innovate, like many of you, because we cared about it, but I didn't wake up in the morning under unbearable pressure to think about what was going on. So we have, and implement it, we have to think about how we change that culture for good care and anyway for the NHS to survive. And I do think it starts with culture. You are wonderful people, and yet there is also a problem in our culture. It's a particular problem, in my view, about learning and spread. I've been saying this for a while, and it was reported 2 or 3 months ago in the HSJ under some appalling headline that Easton slams NHS culture. It was fantastic, one of those articles. They put it online, and people get to put those things in that have your say bit. It's a fantastic innovation in which people, under the word anonymous, write the most vile imaginable things about you from the veg. It's very good for hubris, actually, and the soul. But I'm dealing with that by repeating my feelings. I'm going to do it now, and I'll try and explain it through a story. So. It's probably about 8 years ago now, as long ago as that, I went on a leadership development program. It was a fantastic program called the Cabinet Office Top Management Program. If you ever get the chance to do it, you should do it. The reason it's great is it's done as a mix of people from all different backgrounds, some from all different parts of the public sector, some from parts of the private sector, learning together in a very intensive way and sharing ideas. Really great program. You get to meet all sorts of interesting people. And one of the people on the program was a spy, which was very exciting. It was very, very exciting. And he told us he was a spy when he got drunk. Which was the last 50 years of British history explained in an evening. And the truth is, he had been a proper spy. He worked in the Far East doing spying stuff. But he explained that when you're a spy, usually your kind of period of active service is reasonably short because people figure out who you are and you become less useful. And they don't do the sort of plastic surgery thing or anything on the movies. You just become less useful. And so you have to do something else. And you can go and run other spies, or you can do another career. And he'd gone and done something else. And he was gone to work for one of the major international electronics companies. And he was in charge of counter-industrial espionage. And he explained that he ran a multi-million-pound department stopping other companies stealing secrets about great new processes for making microprocessors. At that time, I was a board member of the Modernisation Agency, the precursor to the NHS Institute, and I said, that's really interesting. I said, I'm a board member of a multi-million-pound organisation trying to give secrets away of how to improve processes, and people don't want to know. One of my ideas for how to improve the spread of ideas from the NHS Institute was that we should make them all secret. And it's kind of amusing. I mean, I laugh with you, but what a disgrace. What a complete disgrace. That in a business where we tell ourselves a story, and mean it, about how much we care about patient care, that we have such an appalling attitude to learning and the spread of learning. We really do. When I worked in York, successful hospital, we were 14 miles from Harrogate. Harrogate was a really successful hospital, top of the league tables and all sorts of things. We woke up every day just wishing they'd be found out for the liars and charlatans that they obviously were. The only way we could cope with Harrogate's success was by describing them as a very successful small hospital. Utterly disgraceful. And to my shame, I did that for a while, but in the end woke up one morning and picked up the phone and said, Miles, can we come and spend some time with you? I know you're doing great work. And he said, yeah, of course you can. And by the way, we know about the work you're doing in flow in emergency care. Can we talk about that? There is no obstacle apart from us. And one of the easiest things to change is ourselves. And I really hope that I'm pretty sure by virtue of being here, that one of the things you're doing is personally modelling that learning and spread, and not the usual reaction of not invented here, which is a really deeply corrosive part of the problem. So we have a terrific need, and we have an interesting, deep-seated problem of culture. Now, I'm going to finish by just saying a few things a bit more practically about what's going to happen next. It includes not an answer to the future of HIACS, although I was with my boss David Nicholson yesterday, and we were talking about something I'm going to mention, and we were reviewing how we make sure, exactly as David described, that in a world in which everything's changing, we make sure we keep the work and take it forward. Quite where that fits into this bizarre pattern of things that have been created, we're going to try and work through with you, but we mustn't lose the work and the energy, because innovation is critical. I'm responsible for this thing called QUIP. There's a reason there's an I in QUIP. It's because it links quality and productivity. Without that, you're losing one or the other. So we must drive it. But we're trying to think about what are the things that we need to help you do. And I'd be really interested if there's a reflection at the end of these 2 days that you wanted to send to me, the things that we need to help you do that will help drive innovation and make those changes that I've talked about. And it's going to be published in an innovation review that David is going to publish in the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think. And it's at a very high level, by which I mean, perhaps slightly strangely, the Prime Minister cares about it. It's very interesting that the Prime Minister, someone who instinctively, actually, like many Prime Ministers before him, cares about the NHS, has got deeply interested in innovation, partly because he cares about the NHS, but also, interestingly, because he sees the NHS as a potential engine for growth in the country. If we could, people outside, people I meet in the States or the Scandinavia, they say to us, why don't you realise the extraordinary innovation benefit of the NHS, the world's largest health system, singly organised, the 7th largest organisation in the world. Why don't you harness that benefit to drive new ideas and change that then can be adopted by the rest of the world? And it's at that level that there's interest. So David's Innovation Review will talk about that, and it will talk about trying to do together a number of things that, if they added up in the right way and we lined them up, would make a difference. One of them is the focus of what you're doing, education and training. The culture change thing I'm talking about, one of the responses to that must be education. It's a hard truth that many great colleagues who are clinicians and managers don't wake up every day with either the attitude or the toolkit that says, what's happening in the world of innovation? How do I need to apply that to my practice? How do I need to be hungry to go and find that out and bring it to my work? So there's something in the way we educate, I guess, at a pre-qualification level and through people's careers about it. I'm very interested, for instance, in the chief executive community, who absolutely don't wake up every day in a sweat wondering what is happening in the world of innovation to change their business. And yet chief executives in other industries do. And so I'm very interested in that group. And I know with your wider connections with your professions, we need to do something in the whole spectrum of education and training, and that's where culture change really comes from in terms of driving that. We need to do some more, probably some more practical things in terms of just the machinery of the system. We're interested in how we might change the incentives in the system so that those people who are applying great innovation, doing spread, find that that's rewarded in the payment system, whether that's for hospitals, maybe controversially in the merit award system. Interestingly, the merit award system, I think, rewards research and innovation, research and invention much more than it rewards spread and adoption. And there's almost nothing equivalent to that in other professions. So how do we check, or the GP contract, how do we change the pattern of incentives to reward people who are doing the right things and to some extent disincentivize those who are not? How do we drive the transparency agenda? Raj and I were talking at the table. When I book an airline, one of the things the website will talk to you about is the age of the fleet. They're trying to talk to you about the way in which they're investing in good equipment and good procedures to make it happen. One of the things we think we need to happen when we know some of the things that make it different is we should make that available to the public. Should we make it clear? I'm making these examples up. Whether the hospital to which you've been listed for surgery is a really strong applier of VTE prophylaxis and the surgical checklist. Should we make it clear whether they're using good fluid management technology in their theatre or not to the public? Should we raise the voice of the patient in expecting that innovation that's been proven is going to be available for them? I can tell you most of us have had the experience. I've been a patient and seriously ill, and you become very interested in actually whether people are applying good practice. When you sign, for example, a consent form with a mortality rate for a procedure of 1.5%. 1.5% is quite a small number when you're vertical and quite a large number when you're horizontal. And you become very interested in whether the practice that you're about to experience, a very invasive thing that may save your life and improve your health but could also kill you, is based on that. So transparency, we need to push very hard. We probably need to do something just about information. I was quite sceptical about this. Frankly, I think if we were driven to innovate, we wouldn't need to worry about innovation. Remember my friend the spy, whose job was to prevent information because there was such a hunger in that industry that you actually had to do things to stop it. I think if we had the real hunger and drive, it wouldn't be a problem. But whilst we're building it, we maybe need to do some more about just making available to people information about what's going on. So a whole series of levers, and a small but important part of that will be the structural stuff about where the work of Hayek's fits and how we carry that forward for the new world. So just to sort of wrap up, your work, the thing you're thinking about, is not some interesting sideline. It's not some nice we might do thing. If we don't improve our system of innovation, then we'll run into terrible trouble. Across the Western world, healthcare systems are consuming each year a greater proportion of the wealth of their countries. So each year they consume a little bit more of the whole wealth of the country. by any definition, by any factual definition, that's unsustainable. No one really knows when it breaks. Does it break in the next 10 years or 20 years or 30 years? The States is probably at breaking point now, spending around 18% of its GDP on healthcare. We're all heading in that direction. If we carry on running the thing we love as we do now in that way, we'll break it. It won't be available for maybe our kids and certainly our grandchildren. I find it very hard to conceive of a world in which universal health care is not available. It would be a terrible, terrible societal loss, and I want to fight as hard as I know how to protect it. And the way we do that is by applying innovation that drives quality and efficiency together, and those things exist. If we just applied at scale the things we know now about better operating practice, about telemedicine, we're about to publish the world's largest randomized controlled trial on telemedicine in the next few weeks, which will, we think, unequivocally dismiss the idea that there's no evidence. If we just applied that, we would make a huge difference today in the lives of our patients, and we would be sustaining a universal healthcare system. So the task you're engaged in about thinking how to do that is so far from peripheral, so far from abstract. It sits at the heart of what it means to run and care about a national health service in our country. We'll be trying to do our best in a complex, confusing, difficult world to help set some of the national levers about tariff, about information education, to help. We need your help so that we can help you. So I'd like to leave you with an invitation, which is at the end of the event, to try and summarize for us the things that you need us to do to help your work. But what you're doing is critical. We need you to be successful, and I wish you just huge success in creating an unstoppable drive of the spread of great innovation across the health service in your area. Thank you very much indeed.